Premier League today is this unstoppable global machine. The most watched league in the world, a billion-dollar spectacle where every weekend feels like a blockbuster event. But if you rewind the clock just a bit, before the billion-dollar takeovers, before VAR and TikTok compilations, there was a time when English football felt raw, unpredictable, and almost poetic. The 2000s, what fans now call Prime Barclays. That era didn't just define the Premier League, it redefined football itself. You didn't need fancy analytics or heat maps to know what was happening. You could feel it. The roar of Old Trafford, the swagger of Thierry Henry gliding across Highbury's pitch, the flash of Ronaldo's stepovers under floodlights. It was football that lived in your chest, not your spreadsheets. And right at the center of it all stood Manchester United, the team everyone loved to hate but couldn't stop watching. They were football's final boss. Year after year, Sir Alex Ferguson's men tore through the league like a storm, winning titles as if it were a reflex. Beckham bending in free kicks like art pieces, Scholes unleashing rockets from 30 yards. Giggs flying down the wing like he'd discovered an extra gear no one else had. For United fans, it was heaven. For everyone else, it was torture. You'd tune in hoping they'd finally slip, and somehow they'd win 3-2 in stoppage time instead. But as every empire learns, dominance breeds rebellion. And from London came the uprising. Arsenal weren't just chasing United. They were rewriting the script. Wenger's Arsenal played a different kind of football, one that didn't just beat you, it humiliated you beautifully. The passing was hypnotic, the flair effortless. When Thierry Henry was in his element, defenders weren't tackling him, they were witnessing him. He'd glide, pause, and strike with the elegance of someone who knew the moment was already his. You could feel the air change when he had the ball. Yet even in their brilliance, Arsenal had rivals breathing down their necks. Chelsea were quietly plotting something massive. They had ambition, a little silverware, and a sense that their ceiling was much higher. Then came 2003, and with it, a moment that shook English football to its core. Roman Abramovich, a Russian billionaire with pockets deeper than anyone had ever seen, bought Chelsea. Suddenly, the game changed forever. Up until then, clubs spent smartly, carefully. But Chelsea, they spent like a movie montage. Drogba, Lampard, Makelele, Carvalho. Stars were being assembled like a super team. And to complete the puzzle, they brought in a young, swaggering coach from Portugal who called himself the Special One. Jose Mourinho didn't just walk into the Premier League, he strutted in like he owned it. And within a season, he proved he wasn't bluffing. Chelsea became a fortress. You could barely score against them. Mourinho's mind games, his confidence, his trench coat drama. It was like watching a Bond villain manage a football team. And the thing is, he delivered. While Chelsea were turning into a modern powerhouse, Arsenal were chasing perfection. And in 2004, they achieved the unthinkable, an entire league season unbeaten. 38 games, not a single loss. That team wasn't just great, it was immortal. The world called them the Invincibles, and it wasn't an exaggeration. They made football look like ballet and warfare at the same time. Even their rivals had to respect it. Well, most of them. United and Arsenal's rivalry hit boiling point that year. Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira would stare each other down like boxers before a fight. Matches between them weren't just games, they were gladiatorial events. Every tackle felt like a declaration. Every goal, a statement of dominance. But football is cyclical, and just when it seemed Arsenal had reached the summit, the cracks started to show. Key players left, injuries mounted, and the old magic started to fade. Meanwhile, Mourinho's Chelsea were rising like a tidal wave. Their defense was unbreakable, their midfield a machine, and their mentality pure steel. They ended Arsenal's streak, claimed the title, and announced that English football had a new sheriff in town. Liverpool, meanwhile, were watching from the sidelines, tired of being a sleeping giant. They had the history, the fans, the songs, but not the silverware to match the hype. Then in 2005, everything changed. The Champions League final in Istanbul became one of football's greatest miracles. Down 3-0 at halftime to AC Milan, they came back to win it all. Gerrard's header, Dudik's saves, it was cinematic. That night didn't just win them a trophy, it revived their soul. Suddenly, Anfield was alive again, and every fan believed the glory days could return. But domestically, the Premier League was evolving faster than anyone could keep up. Money was flooding in, global superstars were arriving, and the football itself was getting faster, more tactical, more ruthless. United were rebuilding too, investing in young blood. And that's when a skinny teenager from Portugal showed up and started doing stepovers like a magician. Cristiano Ronaldo was raw, unpredictable, and arrogant in the best way possible. You could tell he wasn't just here to play, he was here to dominate. And alongside Wayne Rooney, another teenage prodigy who played like every match was a bar fight, United suddenly had the most dangerous duo in the league. Those two were lightning in a bottle. Rooney with the fire, Ronaldo with the flair. They were chaos and art rolled into one. And once they clicked, it was over for everyone else. United's attack was unstoppable. Ferguson molded them, disciplined them, turned raw potential into devastating consistency. Before long, the trophies started rolling back in, and the old empire was back. The mid-2000s felt like a war between titans. Chelsea's tactical perfection against United's attacking brilliance. Arsenal's artistry clashing with Liverpool's defiance. It wasn't just football, it was mythology. Every match felt like a chapter in an epic saga, every rivalry a generational drama. Players weren't just athletes, they were characters in a story that millions followed like religion. By 2006, the Premier League wasn't just England's league anymore, it was the world's stage. Every Sunday night, living rooms across continents lit up for one reason: to watch those colors, those badges, those rivalries. You didn't need to be from Manchester to feel the electricity when United walked onto the pitch. Yet behind all the glamour, there was something deeper. Football in that decade carried a heartbeat that modern fans still chase today. It was messy, emotional, and gloriously unpredictable. One week, a team looked unstoppable. The next, they'd lose to a club fighting relegation. There was no script, no safety net. And that's exactly why people fell in love with it. Take United again, the team that simply refused to die. After Chelsea's back-to-back titles, most thought their dominance was over. Ferguson? He saw it as a challenge. He rebuilt the squad from scratch, blending veterans with hungry youngsters. Ronaldo had matured from a flashy winger into a machine of goals and confidence. Rooney had grown sharper, more dangerous. Together, they were the spark that reignited United's empire. And when they finally lifted the title again in 2007, it felt like watching history reset itself. But the drama didn't stop there. The 2008 season came along and gave us one of the most thrilling title races ever. Arsenal looked reborn, Liverpool were mounting a genuine challenge, and Chelsea still had that unshakable swagger. Every weekend, the top four shifted like quicksand, and at the center of it all was the partnership that defined a generation. Ronaldo and Rooney, destroying defenses for fun. United weren't just winning, they were performing. It was theater. Ronaldo's free kicks bent physics. Rooney's volleys broke nets. Their chemistry was chaos and beauty rolled into one. That season climaxed with United conquering Europe again. Moscow, rain pouring down, penalties flying, and a young Ronaldo in tears after missing his spot kick. But fate, as always, sided with Ferguson's men. John Terry slipped, United triumphed, and the Premier League's grip on world football tightened. What made that decade magic wasn't perfection, it was imperfection. It was the fights, the controversies, the tunnel bust-ups, the random 4-4 draws that made you question physics. Players were allowed to be flawed. Managers had personalities bigger than the clubs. The Premier League was messy and human, and that's what made it art. By the time the 2000s came to an end, the Premier League had evolved into a spectacle no one could ignore. The rest of Europe might have had their technical masterpieces, but England had the drama, the speed, the sound. It was raw energy in HD. And that era, with all its chaos, its rivalries, its impossible goals, is the reason millions still romanticize the phrase Prime Barclays. It wasn't perfect football, but it was unforgettable football. The kind that didn't need algorithms or analytics to tell you it was special. You could feel it in the goosebumps when Rooney volleyed one from outside the box, in the silence before Henry's chip dropped perfectly under the bar, in the eruption at Anfield when Gerrard hit another long-range thunderbolt. Those weren't just highlights. They were cultural moments stitched into the fabric of the sport. The Premier League today might be slicker, faster, and richer than ever before, but something about that 2000s chaos will always feel untouchable. It was an age when football wasn't just a business. It was a battle for pride, for legacy, for identity. Every club believed it could climb the mountain. Every fan believed the next weekend might change everything. That's why even now, decades later, when people talk about the good old days, they're talking about this, the golden years when football wasn't just watched, it was felt. So if you ever find yourself scrolling through old highlights, Rooney's bicycle kick, Gerrard's comebacks, Ronaldo's debut stepovers, Mourinho's smirk on the touchline, don't just see them as clips from the past. See them for what they were, the birth of a global obsession, the era that made the Premier League what it is today. And that's the beauty of Prime Barclays. It was wild, it was flawed, it was glorious. And deep down, we all kind of wish we could go back, just for one more match. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, stick around. There's a lot more history waiting to be retold. Because sometimes looking back reminds us why we fell in love with the game in the first place.